Hello everyone, welcome again to Cool and Easy Math with your teacher, Mrs. Davis Brown. And today we are going to be looking at a PowerPoint presentation to help us learn how to perform or refresh our memory how to perform 4 basic operations on decimals. Alright, so let us get right into that. So calculations with decimals with your teacher here. Alright, so before we go into the operations, let us just recap what decimal numbers include. So we know that a decimal number is a number that has a whole number part and a fractional part. Our whole number, as we are used to, or as we would refer to it as, is on your left hand side, and your fractional part is on your right hand side. And we know that those two is separated by a decimal point. Alright, so we have our whole number on the left and our decimal fraction on the right, that is separated by our decimal point. And we have an example here of a place value chart that indicates we have our whole numbers, as you can see, to the left separated by a decimal point, and we have our decimal fraction to the right. And we have some simple little conversions here that shows you regular fraction converted, and here is a decimal equivalent. Alright, so first we are going to look at addition, and we have some steps here that we have listed to help you remember what exactly to do when we're adding decimal numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is write down numbers and make sure that the numbers are in line, and we are using the decimal point as our guide for lining up these numbers. We have to ensure that all the decimal points for whatever amount of numbers that we are adding, that all the decimal points are in line. Alright, the next one is, if after we have done that we notice that some numbers look a little bit shorter, a little bit longer than some, we are going to fill out all those places with zeros just to ensure that all our numbers look nice and even, so that when we're ready to add we can just go through the process smoothly. Alright, and then we're just going to add like we would add any regular whole numbers that we are used to. And once we are finished, same line that our decimal number is in, we just ensure that we bring that point right down in the same line to our answer. And here we have an example. We have two examples. We have over this side, and you notice that we have write down our decimal numbers. We ensure that these decimal points are in line, and we keep these or ones in the same line. And over this side where we have our decimal fraction, you notice that this one was a little bit shorter, so we use a 0 right here to hold this place, and the same down here for this one. So when we are ready to add now, we just go through that nice and smoothly. And we have another example over this side that you can also look at. Same procedure, write down, this was a whole number, so we know that we put a decimal point is normally inserted at the end. If we want to convert that to a decimal fraction, we just add some zeros. So this is a whole number, so we put that to the left, we insert a decimal point here, and then we just add some zeros. And we follow in line with the other numbers that already had decimals, and we keep those in line, and we come straight down into our answer. We insert the decimal into our answer. Alright, so we just look at that. Alright, to subtract decimals now is basically the same as addition. We're going to do the same thing. Write down the numbers, line them up with our decimal points coming down in the same line, and we are going to pad the other places where there is no digit with zeros, just to make sure that all the numbers are nice and even, so that when we are ready to subtract, in case we need to borrow or anything like that, then we would already have our placeholders. Alright, and we do the same thing when we are finished with our answer. We ensure that the decimal point comes right down in line with the numbers that we have already lined up. And we have an example right here, subtracting decimals. So I have 13.8 minus 1.2, and it says that we are to line up the decimal points, and that's what we did right here. The number that we're using at the top right here was a little bit shorter in terms of the number of decimal places, so we added a 0 right here. So when I am ready to subtract 7, I have something here at the top to subtract it from. So I can just go over here and borrow, and then I continue doing my subtraction just like I would normally do, and in my answer I insert my decimal point. Alright, so we can just look at that. So that's how we do subtraction of decimals. Alright, moving into the next operation, to multiply decimals, we follow these steps. So the first thing we ensure is that we line up the numbers on top of each other. When we are writing down numbers for multiplication, we know how to write them. It's no different here. We multiply the numbers ignoring that there is a decimal point. So we would carry out our multiplication as if we were multiplying whole numbers. And when we have finished multiplying, we are going to count up all the number of digits that are located to the right of the decimal point, because we want a total number of decimal places for our answer. After we have done that, whatever number we had in the answer, we are going to start at the end, because that would be a whole number now, because we have not inserted the decimal point yet. So we start at the extreme right of the number, and we move in the number of decimal places in the number. And in case we want some more insight, we have a video there that you can go in and watch at your own time, just to get some more insight. Alright, and there's an example, 3.77 times 2.8. So we write it down, line them up just like when we are multiplying. This one has 2 decimal places, this one has 1. So we multiply ignoring that. You notice there is no decimal place in any of these that we are multiplying. Just ignore the decimal point for now. Finish off with our answer right here. Then I'm going to combine 2 and 1 to get 3 decimal places. So my answer should have 3 decimal places. I start at the extreme right, and I move 1, 2, 3 places. So my answer is going to be 10.556. To divide decimals, we have these steps. Move the decimal point in the divisor and the dividend. Alright, so the divisor is the number that you're using to divide, and the dividend is the number that you're actually dividing. Alright, place a decimal point in the quotient, which is going to be your answer, directly above where the decimal point now appears in your dividend. That's the number you're dividing. Alright, then you divide as usual, and make sure that you line up the quotient properly so that the decimal point falls exactly where it should. And again, we have a video that you can watch just to remind you exactly what to do. Alright, so we have this example here. I am to divide 55.318 by 3.4. So this would be my divisor, and this would be my dividend. So I set it up right here. That's how my problem would normally look. But because I want to multiply and I cannot do this mentally, I'm going to have to move the decimal point so that this becomes a whole number, 34. And if I move one place in this number, I do the same in this, which is the same as multiplying the number by a power of 10. But because it is easier for us to remember and just to say move, that is what we are used to saying, so we just move that out. So now I'm dividing 553.18 by 34. So because my decimal point would be here now, I am going to bring up my point straight up in my quotient, which is my answer, and that's going to put me right here. So I divide 55 by 34 one time, and that's going to leave me with 21, and I bring down my 3, and then I say 34 into 213 6 times, that's 204, which leaves me with a 9. Now I need to bring down this 1, which means I am passing my decimal point now, so anything that I get after is going to come to the right. 34 into 91 2 times, that's 68, remainder 23, and 34 into 238, that's 7. So my answer is 16.27. 16.27. Alright, now we can have a closer look at that. Alright, so now that we have refreshed our memories on those things, now we want to just sum all of that up into a mixed operation question where we have more than one operations in one, still involving decimals, and we have inserted a video here just to remind you the order of operations for decimal numbers, and let us just take a quick glance at that. Alright, so that was just a little reminder. So we are to do parentheses and brackets first, or just brackets as we normally would say, then exponents, multiply and divide, then we add and subtract. Alright, so you remember now. So here is a question: 4.8 plus 4.8 plus 1.5 to the second power divided by 0.3. So this part right here would be what we refer to as exponents, anything that is raised to a power. So we are going to do that part first. So 1.5 to the second power means 1.5 times 1.5. So we do that multiplication. Alright, after we have done that, we are going to multiply regularly, ignoring the decimal point. So we are going to end up with 75, 150, put that together, we get 225 right here. I have 2 decimal places, so I start out here and then I insert my decimal point, so I'm ending up with 2.25. Alright, so just to examine that a little bit more, we're going to multiply the exponents first. Alright, normally, and we get 2.25 as our answer. Alright, so you see you're well on your way now. So we are going to move to the next step, which is to divide. So 2.25 divided by 0.3. So we are going to, just a little indication right here that I need to move the decimal point here so that this number becomes a whole number. And I do the same thing to this one. So I have 22.5 divided by 3. I'm going to bring up my decimal point in line up here, so I know that in my answer, this is where my decimal point should be. So 3 into 22, 7. 7 3 is 21. I have a remainder of 1. And I bring down the 5. That's after my decimal point now, so I know that my answer for this part is supposed to become from after the decimal. So that is 3 into 15 goes 5 times. So my answer is going to be 7.5. And we can just take a closer look. Alright, and you're doing fine so far. So let us just wrap up everything now. So finally, we're going to add, because we have worked out the part with the exponent or power, as we normally call it, and we have divided. All of that part gave me 7.5. At the beginning of my problem I had 4.8, so 4.8 plus 7.5, we just line that up, keep my decimal point in line, and then I just add 5 and 8 is 13, so we bring over the 1 over here, so we end up now with 12.3. And I am sure everybody got that one correct. So great job. We take a closer look at that. Alright, always remember to line up. Good. And my answer is going to be 12.3. Alright, so thank you again for watching.